I'm Freddy DeMarco for American Musical Supply, and this video will be on dialing in Angus Young's tone. Angus Young is the lead guitarist for AC/DC, and he and his brother combined two different guitar tones to get the one full guitar onslaught. So Angus's key guitar, the only guitar you ever see him use, is a Gibson SG. The SG is brighter than the Les Paul. It's still a humbucking pickup guitar and drives the front of the amp nicely, but it's more of a high-end cutting sound, where his brother is known for playing Gretches and sometimes even the hollow bodies, so he has a cleaner, darker, fatter tone mixed with Angus's cuttier, a little bit more distorted and brighter tone, and that's their sound. So he always used Marshalls. A rear amp, the Marshall JTM 50, and it's rare to find, so then he would use the JTM 45s and also Marshall Plexis. Now these are non-master volume amps. He would just take the volume, turn it all the way up, so it's like a clean amp being turned all the way up, and it uses power amp tube distortion that way, so you're really pushing the transformer and the power tubes, and it's a clean kind of sound. But how he got more grit out of it was he actually had an old wireless, this little thing from the 70s that was actually analog, and it would drive the amp. A lot of players discovered that they could do that with a wireless system, and it would actually add a little bit of compression and more drive to the front of the amplifier. So what I do is I use a tube screamer, any kind of overdrive pedal, keeping the gain down but boosting the volume. You'll get a little of that inherent natural distortion and compression, which will pinch the front of the amp and give you a little more of his tone and playability. So I actually play the Angus Young role in an AC/DC tribute band. And you can go to that website and hear the sounds of the different settings in action. So I actually use different amps from gig to gig, and you can also see and hear different videos and videos in the studio. So we sometimes mic them up to do promo work, and I really try to nail the tone like the albums. For live, we're a little more aggressive, but still the same tones I'm going to show today. And that site is dirtydeedsusa.com. Now, the three amps that I'm going to go through today are going to be an AC30, this Vox. It's a Class A amplifier, and we can get a great AC/DC tone out of it. Also, a Blackstar HT40, so it's the Club 40, and that one is an all-tube amplifier in Class AB. Also, we're going to take a look back here at this Marshall JVM, and for that reason is that it has multi-channels. So those of you that have multi-channel amps, the concern there would be not to dial in too heavy of a metal channel or anything like that, because this is more blues-based. Remember, the original amps he played didn't even have master volumes on it. So we want to keep it relatively clean. Again, I am having that tube screamer in the mix a little bit. So I'm front-ending, I'm going from the guitar to the pedal to the amp, and that's it. Now, on the Back in Black album, they did in the mix put some reverb and a little bit of delay, a little bit of slapback echo on the guitar. But he plays dry, so we're going to dial these in dry for right now. So let's start with the AC30. I'm plugged into the top boost channel of the AC30, and the gain is about 2 o'clock, so it is over halfway. Now, on most amps for this tone, setting the tone somewhere around midway up, so treble and bass just straight up. Maybe I'll drop a little bass to even help out the brighter tone I want to be Angus, but that's relatively where it is. The only other thing I have engaged would be the tone cut on the AC30. I have that in a little bit to help pad some of the treble. Now, there's no reverb or delay, so it's just dry, and that's how we're going to do this one. Now, the way Angus plays is he'll hit harder for more aggressive and percussive sounds, lighter pick attacks, and he'll change his volume from 10 down to 7. 7 cleans it up considerably for a lot of the intros and fingerstyle stuff he does. Also, the tone control is opened all the way up because we do want that high end breathing through. So I'm just going to do some playing, and I'm going to play some riffs that are like AC/DC. Out of respect to AC/DC, I'm not going to play their exact licks because of licensing. So I'm going to go ahead and play. Notice me lowering the volume, lighter touch on the pick, harder, aggressive attacks, and this is how it is. So I was playing harder when I played lead to bring that up. I was lowering my volume to go more with my finger style. And if I did want to add that tube screamer to front end it a little bit, I can do that on a more intense improv lead. Here, check out the difference. I'll start a little bit lower, then I'll add the tube screamer. So the tube screamer really doesn't change the tone that much. It adds a bit more girth, more sustain, and a little more attack to the pick. So I like that for the lead. Some shows I feel that I need that more, and I'll pull that in, and all I'm doing really is just emulating what he was doing with his wireless by front-ending his amplifier. Let's take a look at the Blackstar now. So now I'm plugged into the Blackstar. So this amp is probably the most typical amp most of you probably own, is something that has two channels to it. So it has a clean and a dirty. I'm actually in the dirty, but the gain's rolled down quite a bit. And I have the tone controls roughly close to the center. Again, no reverb or effects on this. Now, if you know Blackstar, this Club 40 has a mode switch, a voice switch actually. The voice switch is out. What I'm looking to do is not make it more aggressive. I'm not trying to boost the mids more. So if you really look at Angus, you want to look at, well, his influences, which would be certainly Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Keith Richards, Pete Townsend, and probably even some Jimmy Page. And those are all blues-based rock guitarists. So we're coming more from a blues sound up, rather than dialing in a metal sound, where if I had voice switches or deep switches pushed in, it's not really like that. You don't want more of like an 80s hair metal or a Metallica type tone dummying down. You'd rather go bluesy and then just beef up the whole overall volume of the amplifier. So you'll notice this sound also having that clear, but it has a buzzy tone to it, but it's clear because they play a lot of open chords where you have not just power chords, 3 and 4 strings ringing together, so that clarity needs to be there even with the distortion present, like this. You want to make sure that voicings like this, where I'm actually taking this A chord and putting these two fingers right here, creating a little bit different harmony against it. You want to be able to hear those voicings. You don't want them fuzzed together. Too much distortion would actually fuzz them together. Check this out. Still kind of clean. Now I would just raise my volume for the lead, and I'm going to think more Chuck Berry type Angus. He uses a very fast vibrato that will also help you cop his style. A really nervously fast vibrato. He probably picked it up from B.B. King. Okay, let's take a look at the Marshall. So this Marshall I'm going to show you, it's actually a JVM, so it has 4 different channels and 3 modes to each channel. And I know some of you are going to have amps like that where you like the real cleans, but you also like the very big metal sound. So we want to be somewhere in between that, and I'll show you how I dial in this Marshall. Okay, now I'm in the Marshall JVM second channel. It's in back of me here. And it's going through a half stack, so that's 4 speakers. And I'm only miking up 1, and I've mic'd up all these with a 57, so it's a very traditional microphone, so we're not influencing the sound that way. But in the second channel, I'm choosing the orange mode. I'm trying to simulate a Marshall Plexi in this case. I do have the tube screamer, but it's not engaged right now, so take a listen to this now. I'm going to add the tube screamer now for some lead work. The cool thing about how I'm incorporating the tube screamer is because the amp's so clean, I can hit the tube screamer and still roll down the volume and clean it up some. So sometimes your front stage here doing the whole Angus thing, I can't get back to the pedal. It's still cool to be able to roll that down and manipulate it. Because if I had a distortion device, the problem there would be I probably couldn't roll it down because the distortion is too much drive into it. So you want to choose an overdrive. So essentially, an amplifier that you're not driving it too much, you're keeping it cleaner than dirtier, but it gets dirtier the harder you hit it, and it cleans up as you roll down your volume, but yet you have some type of overdrive device to give you that little bit more for lead if you like it. Hey, thanks for joining me on this video on dialing in Angus Young's tone.